Good morning, everybody. Welcome to week number 5 here in the NFL. In this edition of Show Blitz here, presented by the Men of Steel podcast, with, of course, yours truly, Charles Prodigy Richey. We got a good one in store right here. It's in particular for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a familiar foe right there, a classic rivalry in the Dallas Cowboys right here, uh, which is particularly mainly known for a lot of fans. Their rivalry in the 70 in the 70s in the Super Bowls, where they met twice right there. Steelers and Cowboys in that decade. Steelers would end up getting the best of the Cowboys for team of the decade. I mean, a lot of people would argue too. I mean, when you look at that, the prime of that rivalry right there. I mean, the Cowboys. I mean, for that run right there. I mean, in the 70s. I mean, they made the playoffs. I mean, all but one season in the 70s. I mean, they've been to five Super Bowls in that year. Of course, they lost. I mean, two of those five Super Bowls to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the one other one was the Baltimore Colts. But definitely, like Super Bowl 10 was definitely the highly defensive one, where it was a low scoring game. I mean, you saw that one right there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were able to win that game 21-17 in that matchup right there. I mean, and then they were able to, ironically, towards the end of the third quarter, their next matchup, going to the fourth, where they slowly pulled away in Super Bowl 13. Definitely a lot of trash talk right there. I was just watching a few clips right there. I mean, Cliff Harris definitely seemed to be at front and center of one of like the guys who was definitely talking a lot of trash. Of course, I guess I'm not sure if anyone could top Thomas Hollywood Harrison, but I mean, Cliff Harris, I mean, definitely right there. I was just looking back at the 1975 Steelers. Uh, and when they met for the first time in Super Bowl 10, in the Super Bowl, that is, I mean, not first time head to head. I mean, they were trying to see who's going to be the third team to win two Super Bowls, and not only become the third team to win two Super Bowls, but also who would be the third team to win. I mean, say the Steelers could be the third team to win back-to-back Super Bowls. You remember the Cowboys already won their Super Bowl before the Steelers did. They made their first Super Bowl, losing in heartbreaking fashion to the Baltimore Colts due to a game-winning field goal. But then they would dominate the Miami Dolphins in that contest in Super Bowl six. But despite all that, right there, I mean, you look at it right there. I mean, I mean, what they definitely set the stare for. I mean, just making the Super Bowl really on display. I mean, it's crazy to think too. Once upon a time, that these teams right there were actually in the same conference together, the old NFL conference. The Cowboys did enter the league in 1960. They were in the NFL West Division, while the Pittsburgh Steelers at that time they were in the NFL East Division. The Steelers that year will go 5-6-1, and then, of course, Dallas Cowboys in their first season they had a tie, but were pretty much winless. They won't get their first win until the next season. And I mean, they would wait to their 13th game to get their first win in franchise history, which is pretty long right there. I mean, you got like Tom Landry, who's brought in by Tex Schramm right there. And of course, you got to think about Clint Murchison right there, who's the original owner of the Cowboys right there. But I mean, look at the pair right there. I mean, like what the Cowboys stood for, that really got under a lot of people's skin right there. Eventually, they created the moniker America's Team, and the story behind that, if I'm not mistaken, when you look at the research on that, that was after they won their second Super Bowl. They were slowly being referenced as America's Team by Pat Summerall. Then it became official in the 1979 season, where it really stuck. There was an NFL documentary on that on NFL Network. You can look it up, like how it originated and how they were able to have that name stick. But a lot of it too, right there. I mean, you look at it right there. I mean, for that, I mean Jackie Smith right there. who had the dropped pass in Super Bowl 13. And you heard right there, Vern Lundquist, who was doing the radio play-by-play for the Dallas Cowboys, right there. I mean, he just said like he's got to be the sickest man in America. God bless his heart. I mean, stuff along those lines. But still, I mean, that was right there, or it was critical. I mean, that moment right there. I mean, the Steelers and Cowboys in Super Bowl 13, just like they were in Super Bowl 10, were ironically neck and neck. I mean, the first score in Super Bowl 10 was 21-17. The Steelers would have to finish that game without Terry Bradshaw, who got knocked out after going ahead in that game late to slowly break it open by about 11 points, I want to say. But anyway, you look at it right there. I mean, you look at Super Bowl 10. I mean, right there. I mean, it was 21-17, and coincidentally, in Super Bowl 13, that would be the similar score right there. I mean, during the third quarter, and where the Steelers were able to like slowly break away from that one and actually uh like burst it open right there. I mean, it was like neck and neck earlier on. Of course, Terry Bradshaw would definitely get stripped and have a 37-yard return for a touchdown. That was by Mike Hegman back in the second quarter of that game. It was game going 7-zip. 14-7. Terry Bradshaw by that year, by the way, too, was also their one and only league MVP for the Steelers. But then they would slowly get in their rhythm. They would start finding a way to outscore the Cowboys. I mean, the rest of the way. I mean, after going down that score, a touchdown, 7-14, they would outscore the Cowboys 28-21. I mean, it was definitely like the crucial moment right there in that game. Of course, was Jackie Smith, who definitely dropped a pass in the end zone right there. Where definitely it should have been a catchable ball, but I mean Roger Staubach also kind of took a little blame too for like maybe underthrowing it a little bit, and he came up to Coach Landry and like got the green light to go for a pass play in that situation. They were driving right there, but I mean it was definitely right there in that contest where it could have been tied up. Instead, it was 21-17. But then you would see like the Steelers break away from that one right there. I mean, just slowly, methodically put the clamps on them right there. And it was definitely right there. I mean, for that moment right there, it was definitely right there. I mean, that game was definitely featured around like Thomas Hollywood Harrison. I mean, taking aim at Terry Bradshaw, the trash talk right there, that contest, saying that, like referring how dumb Bradshaw was. He couldn't spell the word calf. He spotted the C and the T basically. Well, anyway, I mean, Terry Bradshaw, who definitely admitted that, he didn't overreact when he heard that, but they definitely walked away. He was steaming. But yeah, I mean the Steelers right there. I mean when they slowly broke away from that game, it wasn't until like early in the fourth quarter right there, too. I mean, yeah, pretty much right there. Roy Harrella, who after going up 2017, I mean right there. I mean in that contest. I mean that was back in the fourth quarter when Franco Harris got in Harrison's face after all the trash talk, the unnecessary roughness that was being done. Terry Bradshaw just saying, "Hey, you got to slow some of this stuff down right here." Well, anyway, I mean, in that game right there, you would see Roy Jarella who would kick off right there, 41 yards. Randy White would get the ball, what was botched, and then 35-17, then bam. I mean, like you would think that would seal the Cowboys' fate, but they definitely made that a comeback in that game. Roger Staubach, who definitely had that no surrender attitude in him as an athlete and as a quarterback. But they would definitely make a nice, hell of a run right there. The Cowboys would not go away quiet in that game. They would definitely put up two touchdowns, make an injury, recover an onside kick, pull close, win 35-31. One more onside kick. But unfortunately, they could not recover it this time. But like I said, the peak of the rivalry right here, I mean, definitely, I think a lot of people are definitely referred to all that. Steelers Cowboys don't face off for the 34th time this Sunday night. And when we look at the all-time head-to-head matchups right there, I mean, all-time versus Tom Landry's Dallas Cowboys right there since he came into the league, including Chuck Noll's run right there. The Steelers went, I mean, right there, 13-11 versus the Cowboys during the against Tom Landry. Well, not all of Chuck Noll, but it was definitely like including Chuck Noll, 13-11, including the playoffs. And then when the triplets came into the picture right there with Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Evan Smith, Steelers would go 0 for 4, including losing Super Bowl 30. And then since then, right there too, uh, including Cowher's final years right there, who actually went, by the way, 1-4 in his career lifetime versus Dallas Cowboys. I mean, since that dynasty ended, the Steelers would go 3-2 right there, and pretty much the Steelers won three of the last five matchups since the dynasty. But the Cowboys definitely got the Steelers in some crucial games right there. I mean, you think back to 12 years ago in Dallas where they had that game one right there. That was another key crucial fumble in that game. I believe it was by Antonio Brown for like a punt return. But it definitely cost them the playoffs eventually. Ben Roethlisberger was coming back hurt, and that was definitely a pivotal moment. But I think right now, I mean, when you look at this right here, if you were to ask me my all-time favorite moments, I mean, versus these two clubs right here, the rivalry, I mean, what they stand for in each franchise. Of course, the Steelers having six versus five Super Bowls for the Cowboys, so 11 Super Bowls combined right there, which is pretty impressive right there. And I'd have to say right now, for me becoming an all-time Steeler fan too, I mean, definitely Super Bowl 13 definitely is one of my all-time favorites. It's in my top three. Why I became a Steelers fan over the years and really glued onto this team right there. I mean, just watch them. I mean, logo, who they represent, of course, the players. Long before they got Ben Roethlisberger, you look at Jerome Bettis, Rob Woodson, guys like them. Troy Polamalu, my all-time favorite Steeler. Definitely just everything they stood for, and then just got to understand the fans later on. But yeah, so think about that. 13-11 versus Tom Landry's Cowboys, 0 for 4 versus Triplets Dynasty, including Jimmy Johnson's Cowboys, and then of course 3-2 since then. Now, I mean, the thing that was special about like the Super Bowl matches in the '70s right there. I mean, especially those two means they matched up right there. The Steelers would eventually have 10 players on those runs enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, while the Cowboys had seven. I mean, you definitely heard, I mean, right there too by Charlie Wars right there too, who definitely felt like it was unfair about like trying to see, why the Cowboys didn't get team of the decade right there. But I mean, a lot of people will point to that loss. But I mean, just guys like being not in the Hall of Fame right there. I mean, they really feel like they looked at those Super Bowl losses right there. I mean, Cliff Harris, who finally got in like 4 years ago. But I mean, still, I mean, just a lot of those matches, they definitely really feel like it hurt a lot of those careers. And Roger Staubach definitely was agreed too that it felt like because of those losses, they could have had a few more people in the Hall of Fame. But the Steelers actually won that matchup. But anyway, let's go back to the swing of things right here, right now. Steelers Cowboys tonight on NBC and Peacock and on NFL Plus. Mike Tomlin likes to tell his team it's always a five-star matchup because they're in it. But when the Cowboys come to town, it's truly star-studded. Those classic silver helmets against Hippocycloids. 2020, 4 years ago, last time these two teams matched up. Steelers travels to AT&T Stadium for a sleepy limited attendance tilt with Garrett Gilbert filling in for an injured Dak Prescott. When they faced off here, when Prescott was taking over the quarterback over Tony Romo, who got hurt in the preseason, along with speaking debut of Ezekiel Elliott, they're molding rookie stars, and they show Steelers fans why the former throwing for 319 and two touchdowns, while Lair robbed 214 yards with two more scores on 21 carries. Some are wondering right there too that perhaps Justin Fields could do a similar situation over an injured Russell Wilson, who's dealing with a strained calf right now. I mean, like what Prescott did for Romo. Micah Parsons, who was saying in his podcast, I think Justin won the team over this week, previewing the game. He won't play himself because of a high ankle sprain. Right now, Justin's 3-1. He almost had a complete comeback against the Colts. And I'm glad that Steelers and Mike Thomas have been able to get his confidence back because the Bears probably stripped him of it. Bunch of trophies, bunch of great players. You can't talk about the NFL without talking about these two teams, said longest tenured Steeler and Pittsburgh native Cam Hayward. They have the Troy Aikmans, Evan Smith, wherever Joe Greens, Jack Lamberts, Troy Palmals. You could go down the list. I think it's brewing for a good game. Now, some of the key highlights to be focusing in on this game, too, right here. I mean, you're going to be looking at right now George Pickens versus Trayvon Diggs, Joey Porter versus CeeDee Lamb, Tomlin versus Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy actually grew up a Steelers fan in Greenwood, Pennsylvania, but hasn't presided over a team in his hometown since 2017 when he was with the Packers. That one definitely had like another crazy finish right there where they would win by eventually one of many insane field goal winners by Chris Boswell. I think they had three in a row that year, but Steelers lost their first game a week ago, nearly pulling off their third largest deficit in franchise history of 17 points. The Cowboys starting off strong versus Browns of Cleveland have dropped two of their next three games, including being smoked by the Saints 44-19, which included being outscored 35-16 in the first half and then coming up short versus the Ravens. Nearly overcoming over a 22-point deficit to shut out the Ravens in the second half. They were down 20-6 in that half. Somehow managed to pull close, but lost that game by field goal 28-25. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, who come in with a total combined cap hit of $94 million. $6 million for Dak, which is the largest cap hit for any player in the NFL this season, and 34 for CD. Steelers are in this five-star matchup. Of course, second in points defense with 53 for 13 points a game, and fourth in total overall in yards a game, which is 261. Now, I mean, you look at on the other side, when you flip that around right there, I mean, the Cowboys are in a much better position putting points on the board. They're 12th and 13th in total yards. Steelers not that far behind in total offense, only 17th. But I mean, the real interesting thing right here, too, is like the passing, the completion percentage. I mean, Fields versus Dak Prescott. Fields has completed 77 of his 109 pass attempts for about nearly 71%, while Dak Prescott has completed 97 152 for 64%, which is pretty decent. Improvements that Justin Fields has been trying to make, still need to use his legs when he has to. But I'm definitely concerned right now as this game continues to loom right here. I will say this. I mean, Jaylen Warren, who's going to be out, I mean, of this game right now, I mean, going into this matchup, who's been dealing with a knee injury. I mean, he has not been like the same guy we've seen the last couple of years. He didn't practice all week. Of course, you got also, too, Cordero Patterson got hurt during the Colts game because their running back and kick returner ankle. He didn't practice all week. He's out of this game. And right now, too, you got your backup tight end, McCoy Pruitt. The knee didn't practice all week. He is out. And those are pretty much who you got out for this game. So, again, Jaylen Warren dealing with a knee. And then, of course, Alex Highsmith, who's a right outside linebacker, he dealt with a groin. He's been in practice all week. He is out of this game. And along with Cordell Patterson, running back and kick return, due an ankle, and McCoy Pruitt with a knee, he's out. Now, the good news is right now you'll be having returning at left guard Isaac Sayamalo, which will also put Spencer Anderson on the bench right there. See how much this continues to like do, because I really like this offensive line so far as like in the run game. Pass protection still needs a little bit of ways to go, but I think they're definitely starting to find a balance right here. But we shall see. But anyway, right now I think definitely the concern right here, I really feel like Cordell Patterson right here on this team has been like a huge secret weapon for them. I mean, when you really look at it, I mean, it's just definitely like what he's been able to do. I mean, just for like what he's been able to do. I mean, like he's their third leading rusher. I mean, of course, behind Harrison Fields. But I mean, right now, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, it's pretty good right there. He's definitely doing good. I mean, in the running attack, it's just definitely be a nice complementary piece. But of course, I mean, they signed it in to be special for the special teams return. So far, that hasn't worked out too much. But like I said, I mean, just what he's been able to do to help alleviate some of that right there from a team perspective. I mean, he is averaging like nearly 6 yards per attempt, while Harris is over 4 yards, not even 3.5, and Justin Fields just under four at 3.8. So, I mean, that's the only good news. I mean, we'll be seeing the return of Isaac Sayamalu. But right now, let's go ahead and finish this thing up with keys to the game right now. Key number one will be the Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb versus Steelers secondary. Lamb is too dangerous lining up outside, inside, wherever he can get a good matchup. It doesn't sound as if Joey Porter Jr. will shadow Lamb, Jackson, rookie nickel back, Beanie Bishop, and the safeties. Better be on their toes. Lamb had 4 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown his rookie year against the Steelers with Garrett Gilbert throwing to him. That'll be the first key. Key number two, quick start. Steelers only scored once on their opening drive all this season. And what it resulted in was a field goal. I mean, versus Atlanta Falcons, which I believe was for like from their 35-yard line, they started off on. So that's another thing they're going to have to do. They got to find a way to start off aggressive, putting touchdowns on the boards versus scoring. I don't think necessarily Fields cut it. But I mean, if you get the ball first, you better start scoring with some touchdowns, really start setting the tone early. That'd be the second key. Key number three, limit the penalties. The amount of penalties the Steelers had this year were three versus Chargers, which are the lowest all season, week three, but six of their penalties this season, I mean, right now, have been committed by their offensive line and four false starts, two delay games. I mean, the Steelers on the year have 28 penalties. I mean, 13 in total for the offense, 8 for the defense. But I mean, a bulk of that coming from the offensive line. I mean, you have four false starts right there and two delay games right there. So that definitely needs to be polished up for tonight's matchup. And then last but not least, Cowboys defense tackle Mozzie Smith versus center Zach Frazier right there. Zach Frazier, who's definitely wearing the goat horns from last week in the Steelers' heartbreaking loss that they nearly came back from the Colts. The box snap that Justin Fields did not see right there was pretty much game over right there, where they're down with a field goal. 6'3", 337-pound, 2023 first round pick out of Michigan, wants to line up over the ball and blow up run plays. Mozzie Smith. He has 6 tackles in the past 2 games after making just 13 his rookie year. Smith is low to deal up front when his motor's running. Then, believe it or not, too, kicking right here. As good Boswell is right now, too, and this is a great point to pay attention to right here. But think about this. Brandon Aubrey versus Steelers pick Boswell. I mean, kickers obviously don't get kicked enough. Get highlighted enough, excuse me, no pun intended. But these are the two leagues' best right here. Aubrey has an NFL best 12 made field goals, while Boswell had right behind with 13. And won't be surprised to see either guy hit a deep one or the game winner or both Week 3, Aubrey drove a 65-yarder, second longest in league history right here. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, you can see I got my Jack Lambert jersey on for this one right here. The Intimidator right here, as he said, like in Super Bowl 10, he felt like earlier on in that game that, they're not used to being intimidated. They're used to ones being the intimidators on opponents. So that's going to do it for this special edition here, a Show Blitz, the Steelers versus Cowboys pregame show. Once again, you can follow me on X at MansSteelCGR and on Instagram at MansSteelNation. As I leave you, don't be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I got it.
This has been our story all year, hasn't it been? 60 minutes. It's never going to be pretty. Throw style points out the window, but these guys will fight to the end. And I take my hat off to you, and I congratulate every last one of you.
Thank you for watching the Man of Steel podcast with your host, Charles Prodigy Richey, here on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And for all the latest Man of Steel podcast episodes, feel free to download them on Mixcloud, Anchor.fm, and SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts.